Okay, so getting back into our coverage over the X-Men, we're going to pick up with two more chapters from the Onslaught crossover. Now, we're technically still in the phase 1 part of this crossover, but at the same time, we still got to cover the impact issues. Now, just in case we have anybody joining us in our coverage over this event, I kind of want to sit down and explain what the impact issues are. You see, impact issues are kind of like how the actions of Onslaught impacting other characters across the world. And so when it comes to Generation X, the first chapter of this video is going to show us how the actions of Onslaught impacting their lives. And for me personally, it does a lot, but at the same time, it's the book saying they're not truly going to get involved in this event, in this issue right here. Right now, they're on the sideline. And you'll see what I mean as we go through this issue right here. But after this chapter, we're going to cover a Wolverine chapter as well. And really, this storyline does kind of pick up where our last video left off at for this team, where right now they're on a plane heading back home, or they believe they're heading back home. But at first, we're kind of focusing more on Paige here. And really, it's kind of Paige telling us that she's comparing her team to her brother's old team, the New Mutants, because for the New Mutants, they were the original like young X-team in the 1980s for young folks to get into when it came to the X-Men. But then by the end of New Mutants, they turned into X-Force. And for a good period of time, we didn't have a young team. You had Excalibur, X-Force, X-Men, X-Factor, but then we got Generation X, the next generation of mutants. And so for Paige Guthrie, it's her right now kind of comparing her team to her brother's old team, the New Mutants, how for his team, over time, they came like a family. This team right here, they're still in the early days, still kind of figure out who they are and can they officially work together. But when it comes to our heroes and their plane ride back home, you have Banshee realize they're not heading back home. That matter of fact, they're heading over to Canada. And so you have Banshee ask Emma like, hey, do you actually trust these pilots? Because right now, we're not heading back home. We're heading to Canada. Now, you didn't have Emma Frost do something to his mind. Now, right here, you would believe like, oh my God, Onslaught somehow got to Emma Frost and somehow he's now going to use her as a way to play around with the Generation X team. But you have Emma tell Banshee, hey, you know what? I think you want to go outside for a tad bit to get some fresh air. And so you have Banshee open the plane door, go out, and just fly away. Now, of course, the young team, they're freaking out because one, the door opened up, and two, Banshee just left without kind of being worried about his students. Now, you do have our young heroes being able to close the door, but the question is right now, what in the world is going on with Emma Frost? And really for Banshee here, once he does realize that he's no longer on the plane, and two, that Emma Frost had did something to his mind, he kind of feels like Emma is officially up to something. And he feels like he has to be very careful when it comes to his next move. But now we have to jump back over the school of Charles Xavier. And here's the reason why. Because while you have the young mutants away, including their teachers, you had somebody take a job as the mechanic for the school. And that would be a character known as Chevy. Now for Chevy, he was given the job by Chamber and also Skin, but they left. And so for Chevy, he's kind of like, okay, you know what? I took this job as a mechanic for the school, but I have not seen anybody at all. Now, he has no idea that technically he's being watched by a character known as Pennis. We also learn here for Chevy that he's on the run because back in X-Men Prime #1, you had this young mutant known as Dennis Hogan get killed off by a group of humans because he was a mutant. They were scared of the possibility that he may be carrying the legacy virus that can now attack the human race. But here's the thing. You see, for Chevy, we learn here that he may be responsible for the death of Dennis Hogan. And right now, he's on the run, and that's why he's here, to hide from the law. Now, not everyone had officially left the school. Like, for example, we pick up with Leech and Artie. Now, these two young mutants, they're like, small kids. They're in their treehouse, minding their business, and kind of wondering, like, hey, where are the grown-ups? But while they are playing, we see Mondo there watching them. But Mondo is acting a tad bit differently. Like, he plans on doing something big to the entire team. But right now, just Artie and Leech. But while you have that going on, we do transition over to Chamber and Skin. Now, these two characters, they were trying their best to head over to the school of Charles Xavier. And the reason why, because for Chamber, in the earlier parts of our coverage of this series, you had a character known as Gateway just grab Chamber and disappeared. And we're kind of like, what in the world is going on? And then he brought Chambers right back, and we kind of find out apparently Chamber had met Onslaught, but unfortunately does not remember meeting Onslaught. But something else happened to Chamber where his power kind of going a tad bit haywire. And so for Skin and also Chamber, they're trying to figure out like who could officially help him out. And they still believe in the possibility that maybe it could be Charles Xavier. But getting back over to the rest of Generation X, when they do realize that Emma's plane did not bring them back home, they're kind of wondering like, where in the world are we? What in the world is going on? Now, like I said, when it comes to the earlier parts of this issue, you would believe like, oh my God, Emma Frost has been officially taken over by Onslaught. This is an actual problem. And for our young heroes, when they begin to question her like, hey, where in the world are we? She begins to act completely different and not trying to tell them anything at all. And so you do have our young heroes trying their best to attack her, but unfortunately with her powers, she was able to easily take each of them down one by one. And we're kind of left to wonder like, what is she truly up to? But for Banshee, he's still on the hunt for Emma Frost and also his team, his students. And so you have Banshee right now trying to figure out where is Emma Frost's flight plan at. Come to find out, she did not even put a flight plan down. So for Banshee, he's having a hard time figuring out where in the world did Emma Frost and the students went off to. But as we switch over to Emma Frost and the students, we see that she took them over to this random home that could or could not belong to her. But her goal is to keep the kids here. And the reason why, because for Emma Frost, she realized there's something big going on right now with the X-Men. And she's afraid of the possibility of losing more students. Because remember, when it came to Emma Frost, she had her own school in the past. She had her own students, better known as the Hellions. Most of them were killed off while she was in a coma. And so this is her saying like, I cannot afford to lose any more students at all. So right now, my team and I are going to be on the sideline. I have no idea what the X-Men are officially up to, but she has no idea. She has an unwanted guest in her home, and that would be Toad. But now we have to transition over to Wolverine issue number 104. Now, this is also another Impact issue, but I kind of feel like this should be more of a phase issue because this is where we kind of learn the birth of Onslaught. You see, when it came to Wolverine, after Uncanny X-Men issue number 335, you had Wolverine been sent out on a mission to go find Gateway because it was Gateway who kind of knew a tad bit about Onslaught. And so this is Wolverine kind of like, hey, Gateway, can you explain to us how in the world Onslaught was able to be born in the mind of Charles Xavier? Like, that's his mission right now, to learn the actual origin of this being. So when it comes to Gateway, it's not really him trying to show Wolverine what he had asked, the birth of Onslaught. Instead, we have Gateway just going out of his way to kind of make Wolverine relive some of the worst moments of his life, especially when it comes to the death of the woman he loved. And of course, that would be Mariko. Now, when it came to Mariko, she died a long time ago in our coverage over the X-Men, but right now it's Gateway that's making him relive it. And so while you have Wolverine seeing all these worse things happen to him in the past, he begins to fall off the roof. But luckily, at the very last second, he was grabbed by Elektra. Now, when it comes to Elektra, she was sent here by Stick to kind of help Wolverine get back on the right track again. And so when it comes to her, she has been following Logan. Now, for Logan, he had no idea, but now he does. And so now it's her job to help Logan to get Gateway to answer the idea of what in the world created Onslaught. Now, of course, when she goes to talk to Gateway, he's not really trying to give her any information at all either. But then here comes the big catch, because then you have her mention her master's name, Stick. And just like that, Gateway stops, turns around and kind of like, wait a second, how do you know Stick? What is your connection to Stick? But instead of actually talking to her or showing what is his connection to Stick, he began to show her some things as well. And so what you have Gateway show her is all these dark different things. Like, for example, it's her right now, like, on this river, right? River of Styx, and she's being led by Death. Now, as she goes down this river, she sees an image of her father. Is her father being tortured in the afterlife? It's also her kind of seeing this image of her being brought back to life by the hand. And does not stop there, because Gateway is also showing like you believe that you are no longer worthy for the love of the man you do love. Of course, he's talking about Daredevil. Now, you do have Logan being able to bring her back into reality. Now, for Gateway, it's now him trying to begin the process of showing Logan like the birth of Onslaught by sending Logan and Elektra back over to the school of Charles Xavier, but in the past. And when they do get there, it's him kind of showing Elektra all these different images of the X-Men over the years. But it's also Wolverine telling Elektra, like, this is what's going on right now. Like, we got Onslaught, this powerful being, and Onslaught is Charles Xavier. But it's also him kind of asking Gateway, like, dude, go ahead and show me what you're trying to tell me. So you didn't have Gateway show Logan and Elektra a flashback, another one basically, but this one's more about fatal attractions. And this is where I say fatal attraction played a major role, not just for Logan, but also for Charles Xavier, because you now have Elektra and Wolverine reliving that moment where you have Magneto get the adamantium off the bones of Logan. And right after that, you had Charles Xavier shut down the mind of Magneto, except when he did that, a small piece of the dark ego of Magneto, almost said Wolverine there, but the dark ego of Magneto just came out of his body and basically touched Charles Xavier. And when that happened, of course, it led into the birth of Onslaught. But right after you have our heroes go back to reality, you didn't have Elektra go over to Wolverine, because Wolverine's now blaming himself for the creation of Onslaught, because it was him who attacked Magneto, where of course you have Magneto try to rip off the adamantium, not try, he did, but rip off the adamantium off the bones of Wolverine, where of course it upset Charles Xavier. Charles said, shut down your mind. That was when the dark part of Magneto was able to touch Charles Xavier. Their minds were connected. But it's also Wolverine saying, like, if I didn't attack Magneto, none of this would have happened. Now, it's also Wolverine saying, like, seeing that flashback reminded me who I was in the past. I was a man. Because by this point in Wolverine's timeline, he looks completely feral, like a complete savage beast. And the reason why, because we had learned that with the adamantium off the bones of Wolverine, he's now continuing his original process of evolution, the whole idea of turning into a savage animal. Adamantium has stopped that process. With Magneto taken away, the process once again continue. But it's Elektra saying, like, the past is the past. But on top of that, you are still a man. And also, you now have the info you need to tell your team, the X-Men, on how to use that info as a way to stop, of course, Onslaught. And the book ends on that note right there. So with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.